supposed to walk out of here and feel like you can conquer the world. So that's what I was trying to do, and that's where I want you to feel, is that Community Weight Race was the first step in your lifelong journey to health and well-being. And whatever it is that you've achieved while you've been a participant in the Community Weight Race this winter, that you're really looking forward. You're looking forward to the next step and what's to come. And I want you to feel that, sorry, I'm still trying to figure this out. I want you to feel that the Community Weight Race is just the beginning, that you've learned an incredible amount from the presentations, from the workshops, from the coaches, and that you're ready to take what you've learned and put it into practice. And there's a couple things that I just want to encourage you to do, because you can still get kind of caught up in, well, what should I do? What is the right diet? What is the right exercise, you know? And that sort of thing. When you're not in a supportive environment, where do we go? We tend to gravitate back to the same kind of sources of information that are constantly bombarding us or that are easily accessible. And a lot of those messages are about, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be weighing this much, you should be eating this. And
Nobody ever does that stuff anyway.
Well, that's just it. Well, that's what I want to help you with. I want to help you move forward and be able to buffer yourself from a lot of those messages, because I think that a lot of you have learned in the Community Weight Race that lifelong health and well-being, that's what we're trying to be about at Community Weight Race. The race is about weight, but ultimately the skills and the knowledge that you've gained are about well-being and health, and a lot of messages that are out there are not about that. And so what I want to encourage you to think about as you're moving forward is that you can make choices that are very meaningful to you, okay? And so looking at a list of top 10 foods, really look at that critically and think about it in the context of your life, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I want to encourage you to engineer your environment and to talk about how we have a lot more control over the forces that we feel push us to doing things that we may not want to do. And you can control those by really engineering your immediate environment. And then I want to encourage you to trust your body. And I know that for some of us that's really scary. I want to talk about some research that will show you that it's better to trust your body and to listen to yourself. If something's not feeling right for you, there's some meaningful information there. It's really important to pay attention to, and I want you to know that it's okay for you to do that. In terms of intentional choices, one of the things that we need to think about is that today we have a lot more choices than we used to. There was a time that we didn't have many choices. In the mid-Victorian age, in the late 1800s, we were actually quite healthy. Life expectancy after 5 years old, so if you made it to 5 years old, okay, then you were set. And we had a life expectancy that was equal or better than it is today. We were very healthy. Oops, gosh, I'm so sorry. Once we got beyond age 5 and we lived our lives, actually, we had very low rates of chronic disease like diabetes and cardiovascular disease and cancer, in part because a lot of the things that make us sick were expensive. We didn't have very easy access to these things. So we could say, well, we were so pious and we were so moral and we were so good and we knew which choices were good. That's not true. We didn't have a choice. If you didn't have access to these things, they just weren't in your life. Look how easily accessible they are today. We made our own food. The food that we ate was what we could grow. That's a great picture. Okay? What you grew on a tree and what you could dig up out of the ground, that's what you ate. And so everything was very fresh, very healthful, very nutritious, not out of choice. It's all we had. There wasn't a McDonald's around. And as a result of a lot of this, we were very physically active. How many of you garden? It can be really physically demanding. Well, what about farming? Even more so. So we were very active. So why were we really healthy? Because our lifestyle was shaped to be actually very healthy. And we didn't really have a choice. Now today, unfortunately, a lot of times the easy choice isn't necessarily the most healthful choice. So that means we have to make an effort to make the choices that we know that are healthful. So not only is food easier to get and physical activity harder to get, but a lot of times the choices that are easily accessible are the ones that we know we shouldn't be making a lot of. I mean, a lot of us do spend a considerable amount of money on these kinds of contraptions. Snowblower, all those sorts of things that, you know, supposedly make our life easier. They make our life more enjoyable. They make our life more modern. But is it really the best choice? We have a lot more choice for entertainment. And these are things now that we're burdened with. I mean, does an iPad really improve your quality of life? Does an iPhone that now you can play on really make your life better than it was in the 1970s? We have all these technological advancements. We think of them as improving our lives, but I want to challenge you to think about the dilemma that we're all faced with. We have a lot of technological advances that supposedly make our lives better, less painful, less effort. But in the end, that might actually be causing a lot of our problems. Here's my son, actually, who has decided he's not taking the moving walkway, and Mom, I'm carrying your bag. Dad, give me your bag. He's walking through the airport and he's sweating it out because that's what he feels he needs to do. And so this is his choice. And I don't know what motivates him, but I certainly don't want to discourage him. And whatever's motivating him to do this and whatever's motivating this person to do this, you can think about that and you can analyze that so that you don't feel like this is what's happening in your life. Like it's not you consciously making that decision. Because right now we're talking about intentional choices, and I want to give you some perspective, okay? So the moving walkway, supposedly good, makes our life better. We should choose that. It makes us more comfortable. I don't have to work so hard to get across the airport. But I love this poster because it's such a slap in the face, and is the perspective I want you to think about every time you're challenged with these choices. Look at this. It's pretty amazing that our society has reached a point where the effort necessary to extract oil from the ground, ship it to a refinery, turn it into plastic, shape it appropriately, stick it into a store, and buy it and bring it home is a whole lot easier than washing a metal spoon. Because that's what it means. I know we don't think about it that much when we go to the grocery store and buy a package of plastic spoons. But if you think about it a little bit, that is what it means. So when we're weighing a decision, oh gosh, this is a perfect example. A former neighbor of mine, she said, oh, there was an Xbox gaming system and it was on like 80% off sale. And I said, yeah, and she's like, that is such a great deal. Do you know 5 years later she regrets more than anything having bought that? She has 2 sons, and now it's a constant battle to get them away from the TV. But it was a great deal. If she'd thought about it a little bit more or a little bit differently, or maybe if she had been able to talk to me before she bought it, things would be different today. So challenge yourself to analyze some of these givens a little bit differently, and it might be easier to make some of these difficult choices. So in encouraging you to choose intentionally, some of the things that I want you to do is stop comparing yourself to others. What other people do is what they do. And what you need to do is to make choices that are absolutely right for you. It's not about what other people do, it's about what works for you, and it's not about trying to fit some sort of ideal and meeting some sort of external expectation, somebody else's vision of what you should be doing. For some of us, for example, for physical activity, it could be, running. That's my husband, that's his identity. My God, running is the core to his identity. That is his purpose for living. And to me, that's the most bizarre thing. I want to be a part of something, like something bigger than myself. And running is just about me. To me, running for marathons and all that and 3-hour runs is like a huge waste of time. And that's hard for my husband to hear, because for him it's like, that's his identity. That's his meaning in life. So we don't talk about it anymore. But that's just it. Should I run a marathon? Should I train for marathons just like my husband? Just because it's meaningful to him? Absolutely not. That would be terrible. Should my husband stop running marathons because it's not meaningful to me? No. He needs to do what he needs to do. I need to do what I need to do. And for some people, it's not about structured exercise. It's about getting our physical activity in a really purposeful and a meaningful way. And it might be about joining the Sierra Club, or actually, sorry, California reference. What is it? Okay, some other environmental group where they go, and clean up parks and that sort of thing. This is valid exercise. This is valid physical activity, and I know you've learned about that in the presentation so far at the community weight race. So you need to choose what works for you. And for me, sometimes, this is my physical activity. Actually, I did this morning. I biked to work. Is it exercise? Absolutely, it's exercise. It's also called physical activity, and those can be interchangeable words. And I do it, and I try to fit it in every way that I can. And there are some people who say, my God, you look ridiculous. Look at that, your skirt's hiked up. I have a knot in my skirt. My slip is showing. Let me see. I'm gonna sweat. Believe me, I will sweat. Okay, so people who see me biking to work, they say, oh, well, it's easier for you, you don't sweat. I will tell you now, I sweat. Okay, and my hair gets messy. And if I put my makeup on before I leave the house, it gets all runny, so I have to do that after I get to work. Is this a hassle? It's a hassle. I have to make it work. But I make it work, and do I make it work just for the exercise? No, because I could do that otherwise. I do it because it has a lot of meaning for me. Sometimes this is all the physical activity I get. And I know that for some of you, you're still thinking, yeah, but you're not like me. I'm not like you. I can't compare myself to you. And I'm like, I know. But there's a lot of people who make comments to me. They know how much I exercise. Believe me, when I'm at the Y, I have had people come up to me and make comments about how they know how much I exercise and do I ever leave and la 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 la. I can't believe people are saying that. They make assumptions about who I am based on how I look. And that's not fair. I don't exercise 3 hours a day. Sometimes this is all I get. But it's okay because it means all of this to me. If this is all I can fit in my day is for physical activity is biking to work. The fact that I'm gonna sweat in my work clothes, run my makeup, mess up my hair, and look ridiculous on the city streets in the community that I live in, it's because it means a whole lot more. And when the weather's nice, I do this every day. And so I can do this every day. And then my challenge to you is find what's meaningful. How about for food? Let me ask you, what do you think this number means? For food and making intentional choices about food. What's our challenge today with food?
Calories consumed in a year?
Calories consumed in a year, maybe. Anybody else? Do you know that there are 10 to 20,000 new food products that enter into the American grocery store every year? The vast majority will be there for a few weeks or months and then they fail because we don't buy them. Some will stay. Lunchables, right? Lunchables stay. Unfortunately, Lunchables stay and grew and bigger. I highly recommend this book. If you want to know to what extent your food choices are influenced not by what you know, but by corporate America, I tell you, you gotta read this book. It's very enlightening. It's very much about how the food choices that we have to contend with, this is what we have to pick from. That wasn't like that in the 1800s. This is what we're faced with. And it's like that because companies have money to make off us. And this, the cool thing about this book is it reveals to us that this is the nicotine. This is the nicotine of food. These are the addictive substances in food. I just got done with the Lunchable section. That's why I'm just thinking about that. But what I want you to know about making intentional food choices is that a lot of times people have this impression that when they go off their diet or when they have eating occasions that they regret or that they say, oh, I ate too much, that sort of thing. They think that the vast majority of times when that happens, it's because of emotional eating. I was stressed out and I just came home and I ate the refrigerator. Or they think it's contextual. Well, you know, it's holiday parties and you know how that is. And then, you know, there are some people who think about, well, you know, I'm just always overeating, but there's not a lot of people who are thinking this. And I'll tell you what the research shows is that the vast majority of instances of over-consuming calories are not these big, easily identifiable instances, the ones we notice. It's all the little things. It's all the little things.
Tastes good.
It tastes good, or we don't even notice. We don't even notice because we're not really paying attention, because it's just there. And what I want you to think about in terms of engineering your environment is this example. I gave a presentation a few years ago, and somebody raised their hand and said, well, I know I'm addicted to carbs. And I said, oh, well, tell me more about that. How do you know? Oh, when I come home from the grocery store, if I rip open that bag of Oreos, half of it's gone. Just like that. See? And I said, well, okay. Do you ever eat Oreos, I asked her, in situations where you might only have 2? And she said, well, yeah, I mean, when I put Oreos in my lunch and I bring that to work, then of course, you know, I just eat what I brought. And I said, okay. And so your addiction isn't like a heroin addiction. You don't have the 2 Oreos and then you have to get up from your work and start trolling the streets of Stevens Point for your like Oreos fix because you can't, oh my God, you can't control yourself. I said, it's not like that, right? Well, no. Right. Well, no. Well, no, it's not. It's not like that. I actually offered a suggestion that maybe she didn't have to buy Oreos every time she went to the grocery store, which is about this. She's struggling with this as if it's not, it's outside of herself. And it's not. And it's just a matter of thinking about it and saying, is this going to help me get to my goal? This is probably one of the best books that I can recommend. For those of you who still think that what you're struggling with is sort of your fault, it's a defect in you, you have no willpower, oh, if you just, could control yourself and that sort of thing. This book will liberate you from all those guilty feelings and all that negative self-talk. Because this book is decades worth of research into how the environment, the situation that we're in, can lead us to completely alter our attitude towards food and our consumption. If we walk into a restaurant that has green color and all the words on the menu have something to do with like healthy, we will underestimate the calorie value of the food that's being served in that restaurant, and we will eat more. Oops. And there's some really strong research to support that. What else did he show? He showed that if he took popcorn and he let it go stale for 2 weeks, 2-week-old stale popcorn, and then he showed people a movie and he gave them buckets of popcorn. Okay, big buckets, small buckets. And did people eat more popcorn when it was in the big bucket as opposed to the small bucket? Yes. And did they do that even when the popcorn tasted really bad because it was 2 weeks old? Yes. Did the people tell him they noticed that the popcorn was kind of bad? Yes, they did. They said, and the popcorn wasn't really good, but they ate more of it. Are we out of control? Have no willpower? There's some sort of defect in me? No. We need to stop buying big buckets of popcorn. It's all it's about. This is really a great book. This is also about, for those of you who feel like that woman at my previous presentation who can't stop at one Oreo, this is very much about that kind of phenomenon. A really good example in this book is Doritos. The Doritos commercial says you can't eat just one. And you know what? It is absolutely engineered to that end. It is engineered to have 7 layers of flavor sensations when one chip hits your mouth. So by the time you swallow, you're like, oh, I want that again. And you go for another one. And it's not the same sensation that you get at the beginning as at the end, so then you want it again. Because if it were all the same, you'd be like, all right, I'm done. You're not out of control. If you can't help but plow through a whole bag of Oreos, you're completely normal. You're completely normal. Doritos is designed to tap into that normal behavior. And then there's this one. There's that really talks about how we really have to make intentional choices when we're at the grocery store. How we really have to stop reading the front of the package. One of the good examples, before I got to Lunchables, which was about Capri Sun, which is marketed as juice, but it's not. And they basically, that company was able to say that it has 10% less sugar than regular juice. 10% less sugar than before. But it was just as sweet. They used a different sweetener. They used fructose instead of sucrose. So they could use a little less. So it had a couple calories less, but it was just as sweet. Was that important that it was just as sweet? Yeah, because this drives food intake. So we want just as much, but now we think it's healthier, and it's not. So front of package health claims, gotta be wary. And what you know about healthful food is really your guide. There's no food company that cares more about your health than their bottom line. Never forget that. Never forget that. So all the healthy eating tips that you've learned in Community Weight Race, I challenge you, hold on to those. Hold on to those, because the next time you go to the grocery store, Kraft Foods is going to be there waiting for you. So, intentional food choices, shape your environment, and then I want you to learn to trust your body. And I want you to know that there's a lot of research to show that it's okay to do that, and you can improve your health when you do that. You really can. And the bulk of the research comes from a very new model of approaching weight-related health issues. The reason it's health at every size is because there were some weight loss researchers who were very frustrated by the fact that most health professionals were recommending to people to lose weight, and they were saying it's because we're trying to improve their health. But health was never measured as an outcome. It was always, did my patient lose weight? That's all I'm worried about. No matter if emotionally they are worse off after trying to lose weight and failing to, no matter that their blood pressure may or may not have gone down, that wasn't what was being measured. It was just, did you lose weight? So these researchers, very frustrated about this, said, okay, look, if the real issue at hand is we're trying to improve people's health, then let's do this. Let's see if we can improve people's health, not by targeting weight as the outcome, but by helping people adopt healthier lifestyles. And if they lose weight, well, fine, but we don't really care about that. And we're not going to pressure them to care about that. We're going to help them accept their body, not so much change their weight or manage their weight. We're going to have them make choices, especially food choices, based on what their body tells them they should eat, instead of giving them a very restrictive or prescriptive diet. And we're going to encourage them to find forms of physical activity that they enjoy, as opposed to giving them some sort of rigorous exercise program that you got to do this to burn those calories type of thing. And so, what did they find? What are some of the details about how people in this study were told to tap into their internal cues? What they wanted to do was they wanted to help people listen to hunger, physical hunger, so that when the clock struck noon or their colleagues were having lunch, if they weren't hungry, they could actually listen to their body and say, well, I'm not hungry right now, so it's not lunchtime for me. Learn to give into cravings. Really? Really? And not just give in, but enjoy the carnal pleasure. You want a piece of chocolate? Honey, you go get that chocolate. And when you eat that chocolate, man, you relish it. And you relish it believing that you deserve it. Wouldn't that be a great program to be in? Okay, and then absolutely, understanding the notion of healthy diets, and then choosing within those notions foods that honor preferences. So if you don't like broccoli, you don't have to eat broccoli. It doesn't matter how many lists of top 10 foods broccoli appears on. If you don't like it, don't eat it. How many times have you heard that? Okay, so what do you think can happen? Especially with this one. What do you think happened? This is what happened. Okay, so they put a certain group of people. These are overweight women. This is their weight in kilograms, so they're over 200 pounds. And some of the women were put on this Health at Every Size program, and some were just put on a regular weight loss program where they're given a diet, given an exercise plan, and told that you're in this because you want to lose weight, right? So we're going to help you do that. So they all started at about the same weight, and at 6 months on the program, of course, the diet folks did lose weight. They didn't lose that much, but they lost weight. these guys didn't lose any weight at all. It's okay, right? That wasn't the point. Totally not the point. A year after, so 6 months after the formal program, and these people were now let loose on their own, 6 months of follow-up, the diet people actually were able to lose a little bit more weight, health at every size, no weight loss. 1 year follow-up afterwards, these guys, their weight crept back up. Bummer, but they're still lower weight than these guys. But what about their health? Because after all, the health at every size group, the idea was healthy behaviors. So were they able to engage in healthy behaviors that improve their health? And isn't weight loss supposed to improve your health? So did these guys actually get healthier because of the weight loss? What they measured was blood cholesterol, bad cholesterol, LDLs, blood pressure. And these are the typical sort of physical health outcomes that, that people refer to, or why a physician might recommend that one lose weight. And, but they also looked at emotional well-being. They looked at people's tendency to tap into disordered eating behaviors, and also how they felt about themselves. What were their feelings of self-worth? And what they found at the end of 2 years was that the people in the diet group, their blood cholesterol didn't change, their LDL or bad cholesterol levels didn't change, their blood pressure was the same. They didn't actually lose that much weight, but still they lost weight. So we might expect some of these to change, but they didn't. They had greater disordered eating behaviors. It's a bad thing. And they felt worse about themselves. They had lower self-worth at the end of 2 years. The health at every size group, they did adopt healthy behaviors, and their blood cholesterol levels went down, their LDL levels went down, their blood pressure went down. They had healthier eating behaviors, and they felt better about themselves. And they lost no weight. Since then, several other groups have applied this approach, and recently all these studies were put together, and they showed similar outcomes. And it is known that many health indicators can change with behaviors that are consistent with healthy lifestyle, and they're not necessarily dependent on weight loss. So a question that some of you might have is, well, I mean, does weight matter at all? Okay, is that my point? Not my point, but I will answer this question because it might be a point of confusion. It does matter, okay? One of the reasons why this group didn't have any change in the physical health indicators is likely due to the fact that they didn't lose a significant amount of weight. And we do know that when we do lose a significant amount of weight, health indicators do change. So it does matter, but what I want you to keep in mind is it's absolutely not the only thing. And it may actually not be the most important thing. So as you leave the community weight race, I want to maybe take the weight out of your experience and have you think about how, okay, maybe I did lose weight, that's great. Maybe I didn't, but that's okay. If I keep going with what I've learned I can do, I might lose weight, I might not. But I don't have to beat myself up about it, do I? It's not all about weight. This guy, this is probably the most famous exercise researcher in the world today, Stephen Blair. And he is 5'4" and weighs 195 pounds. And he jogs. Every time I go to the American College of Sports Medicine meeting, he's jogging every day. Afterwards, people see him. He's always chit-chatting with someone, but then people pass him and go, "Hi, Dr. Blair, hi, Dr. Blair." I don't know how he even chit-chats with the person he's running with, because everybody's always saying hi to him. He's so famous. And what he knows, and what he's been studying for a very long time, in lots of different people, is that if you are physically fit, And physical fitness comes with physical activity. Nobody is born fit. Nobody is fit simply because they think about exercise. We become physically fit because we engage in physical activity. So fitness is a marker of physical activity. And he has shown that people who are overweight and fit are healthier and live longer than people who are normal weight and unfit. Which is really important, because there's a lot of people who think their exercise program isn't working because they haven't lost weight. And he wants you to know it's working. It's working. You just don't see it in the way you thought you would see it. But it's working in a whole bunch of different ways in your body. His advice here is eat healthy, be active, and let your weight be what it's gonna be. That's his attitude. And it's based on a lot of research. It doesn't mean that if you want to lose weight, that's bad. It just means put it in perspective. The health at every size approach is definitely a wellness approach. It definitely is an approach that de-emphasizes the importance of weight. It helps people disentangle feelings of self-worth from their weight. We are more than what we weigh. If we accept who we are, this will foster in us a greater tendency to take care of ourselves. And we will naturally want to make choices that take care of ourselves, and we will take care of ourselves, and start adopting healthy lifestyles that lead to health. And then a lot of this was a lot of intentional training on making intentional choices. Thinking about what do we need, how are we gonna get it, and what do we need to make change in our life. So this notion of wellness, that we can't improve our physical health just on its own, without attending to other aspects of our life, like our emotional well-being, our social relationships. A really good example for me in terms of physical activity and our family, there was a day this winter when my husband wanted to go cross-country skiing, and he really wanted to go. My son didn't want to go. My son wanted to go downtown, down to the hobby shop in order to buy a football card. I really wanted to go on a run. We have one car. Everything was coming together to sort of be like, okay, maybe one person gets to do what they want to do today. And it didn't turn out that way. My husband went on his skiing, and I decided to go downtown with Eli. He rode his bike, I ran, he got his football card. What? Did we bring the dog? Okay, we brought the dog too. So that helped. So I got to run. He even got physical activity, and he got his football card. And we just made it work. And that's, if I hadn't attended to Eli's wishes, I would have had, for the rest of the day, this strife, this stress from my social relationship, my relationship with my son. And how is this affecting me? And do I feel guilty? Am I supporting him? Or is he getting in my way? And instead, we made some pretty big choices on how to make it all work and make it holistic. So what I would like to encourage you as you move forward is, remember, on your road to wellness, to lifelong health and well-being, it's not a race, it's a process. It's a process of making intentional choices that are very meaningful. Community weight race is ending, but your journey is just beginning. And this is the goal. And I'd like to send you on your way. And I want to remind you to think carefully, to make intentional, meaningful choices that validate who you are, that engineer your environment to set you up for success. Remember that your body is a wealth of information. Listen and trust your body. And be kind to yourself. Be as kind to yourself and as forgiving of yourself as you would to your friend. Remember how many times we beat ourselves up for little mistakes, little things, and we berate ourselves much more than we would ever a friend of ours. And that's it. That's what I'd like you to think about as you leave the community weight race. Thank you.